Hello there, Jill Wotton here from With Insight Training, and here today to discuss the top mindset traits of people who are really brilliant hypnotherapists, people who can go out there and really transform lives. After training people for 19 years, I've seen these mindset traits very common in my students and in people who are even trained elsewhere, but they've got these particular mindset traits. So I'm sharing them with you today. So it doesn't matter whether you're looking to become a hypnotherapist, you're training as one, or you're already qualified. These traits, I hope, will encourage you to reflect on how much of that particular trait you've got, and could you up your skill a little bit in that? Could you develop that trait in yourself even more to make your practice and make your work even more transformational and effective? Now, as I go through these, if there's one of these you think, no, I haven't got that, I'm not like that, it's okay, because awareness is a real top trait for personal development. So if you think, I don't have that one, then it's okay. Just make an effort and a note and a conscious effort to actually develop that, either if you're training or if you're actually qualified. So the first thing is that you don't have to know everything. Oh, really? I can perhaps hear some of you saying on the other end here. And you absolutely don't. You know, as long as you are well trained and got really good skills, skill base aside, there will be times, and often at the beginning, where you know, maybe a client mentions a particular drug that they're on, or might mention an illness that they've got, and you don't know what that is. And it's okay to ask your client. It's okay to do that. So don't feel as though you always have to know. And if your client says something that you don't quite understand, just ask for clarification. Nobody expects you to know everything. And actually, it also gives the client just that little bit more time to explain stuff as well, and to give whatever they're experiencing give a bit more detail from their perspective. So number 2 is being self-aware. And this is so important. Self-awareness gives us this opportunity to stay very firmly in our professional shoes. There will be times, you know, when somebody will come and see you, and you maybe if you've been recently bereaved and somebody's come to see you for grief or a loss of some sort, that unless you're aware of maybe that, or that a bit of a sad feeling in your tummy, or just starting to think about yourself and your own recent experience, what can happen is that you go into the space of just empathy with the client. Now, empathy is a huge and important part of therapeutic work and eventual transformational work. But you're not going to serve the client if you just fall into a heap and start, you know, going into entirely and live in their world. You've got to be able to have that self-awareness. And there are times when it's just best not to practice. You know, when you've had something big go on in your own life, you have to make your decision whether it's right for you. You know, are you in the best place to see your clients? And you know what, if any of you out there say, you know, I'm not going to see anyone for a few days, or I'm going to go and get a little bit of help with that, do you know what, I'm going to give you a high five, because that takes a lot of courage. So number 3 is about always learning. Now, a friend of mine who's an acupuncturist has recently been to China, where he goes every couple of years to go on courses with some real masters. Now, these guys are in their 80s. Yeah, wow. But they still see loads and loads of clients every single day, and they regard themselves as novices, always learning, and they're in their 80s. And I love that mindset because it keeps us curious about the potential of how that affected this and how this affected that, and oh well, I better go and learn some more stuff on there. So staying curious, having the mind of a novice is an important part of being a really good therapist. The fourth is to make sure that your basic needs are met outside of the session. Now, for any of you who are not familiar with the basic needs, if you pop onto our website and go down to the footer at the bottom, there's a link, and it's just called Helpful Links, creatively titled there. And if you go on, there's a document, a PDF document on the basic needs, and it'll give you a little bit more of an insight into what I'm talking about. But in summary, what I mean by that is that you have a full and good life outside of your work, that your work isn't absolutely everything in your life. So for instance, if you were lonely, what this can do is unconsciously we get too a little bit palsy and a little bit too over friendly with the client because we're kind of lonesome and we want company. We might also get them to stay working with us for longer than is really needed when the goals of the session are already completed, yet we still are going back to that space and still wanting them to come back because of some unconscious drive to get that companionship. So yeah, number 4, make sure those basic needs are met outside of the session. And number 5 is to be yourself. Sometimes, and I get it when we're learning, we leave our personality at the door and it doesn't work. We come in, when we're qualified, we need to come into the session as a full and whole person, head and heart together. And it's, if you try and be just too professional and too starchy and don't bring some humour in or some joy in or some tenderness or some realness about yourself. I don't mean to say that we divulge everything about ourselves in a session, I don't mean that at all, but just the full range of our personality. What we then get is this beautiful sort of co-creation of solutions and the eventual transformation for the client. So if you come across as just a blank slate, it's harder for the person to relate to. So just make sure that you take yourself into your client sessions, and that gets easier as time goes on. So the more clients that you do, the easier it will be to just be more yourself in a client session. And number 6 is expect the best. Now, I learnt this very early on in my career. I was sat with somebody who was seriously depressed. They were incredibly low, and just life was very, very bleak and black for them in that moment. And because I'd never seen anyone at that stage as poorly as that, somehow I just had started to, even though it was unwitting, I developed this sort of mindset that I wonder how much difference, I wonder if someone like this can change. And I think at some level I'd started to doubt my own abilities. So what happened was, in the first 2 sessions, my skills were good. So he made some progress, but I didn't get the depth and the speed of progress that I was used to. So he was coming for the 3rd time, and I sat down with myself and I just did a little meditation. I just sat quietly, just did some, lovely breathing and just reflected on my work with him and how I felt about him coming. And I suddenly realised that I didn't expect him to get better, because he was so poorly. So I did a load of work on my own mindset, and I sat in that session and I held a vision of that man really well, playing with his grandchildren, enjoying the company of his wife again, and just full of life. So in my energy, my field was expressing that positivity. And you know, that guy never needed to come back again. And his wife and his family wrote me a beautiful testimonial, a beautiful letter, just a few weeks later, saying how much he'd changed on that third session. So never underestimate the power of your own thoughts in a client session. So always expect the best. And even if the person is sat in front of you really poorly, make sure you hold a vision of them well in your mind and in your being. So, number 7 is to have your clients' interests at heart. Now, I know that will sound bonkers for many of you because you've gone into this business of this sort of work wanting and believing in transformation, believing that, you know, you've got an ability to help people grow personally, professionally, and that they can move on from their situations which are causing them problems. So when we talk about having your client's best interests at heart, there will be times, and even now today, I will see people that I know another person has got better skills, even after 19 years, has got different skills which are more suited for that client. A very simple example would be someone coming along with a lot of acute pain and they haven't been to a doctor. Now they need to go and see a medical practitioner just to get things checked out to make sure it's not something more sinister. So when you refer on to a chiropractor, a doctor, somebody within the NHS community psychiatric services, whatever it is, this is not you failing, this is not you doing your job. It is totally the opposite. It's you doing a brilliant job because you're putting your ego aside and you're saying, it doesn't matter, I don't need to treat the person, that they will be better off in that place. And let me tell you, they will thank you dearly for it because they'll get good results with that other person. And they'll always have that awareness that it was you who put them on that pathway anyway. Anyway, that's been my experience. So number 8 is don't muddy the water. Now, what I mean by don't muddy the water is a client will come to you and sometimes have quite complex issues. There'll be lots of layers of problems. And sometimes it can be, you can find yourself going into no man's land of your aunties, your uncles, what happened when you were 5, when you were 3, well, how was school, and oh, did that, and like having all of this conjecture and thoughts, and oh, well, that might have caused that. And it is so confusing, both for the client and yourself. So stick to the way that you've been taught and don't go where you're not needed. So a question I get my students to ask themselves is this: if they're a bit unsure about their questioning, then just ask yourself this: will this question bring me information that will help me move this person forward in a positive way? And if the answer's no, button it, okay, and just take a different tack. So don't muddy the water. Number 9 is go back to basics if things in the session feel a bit sticky and things aren't moving very well. Sometimes in a session it takes a while for things to unfold and reveal, and the path ahead to be revealed. So if you feel that sense of I hate the word resistance, but it might even be you that's creating it, or you feel that you're not moving, it's normally because it's something quite small, like you haven't built up rapport enough, that you've not done enough reflective listening, stuff like that. So just go back to basics. Go back to asking questions a different way, but always make sure you're building up that rapport. So the reason why I put this point in is because I don't want your confidence crashing and you starting to go on your internal journey if things don't work out, you're not clear within that first 10 or 15 minutes, because I would say often I'm not, but I've done so many thousands of sessions that I now have the confidence to know that my skills combined with my intuition will just forge the path forward as the client and I interact. So yeah, just be confident and just go back to basics if you feel that path not emerging. And number 10, the last point, is about reflection. Now, I see this in several ways. One is reflect on your own personal practice. Yeah, it's always good at the end of a week or the end of when you're writing up your client notes at the end of the day or after your session, just to have a wee look at what you did well. It's always good to recognise what you're doing well. Reflection doesn't need to just be on the stuff that's not working. So recognise what you did well, recognise what you maybe could have done, and just have a think, was there anything that you missed out? Was there anything you could have brought in that you didn't? So what you did well, what you could have changed a little bit, what you did but you could have improved on, and anything that you didn't do but that you could have brought in. And so one other thing around reflection is getting supervision. So not just doing this yourself, but also joining an individual, working with an individual to get supervision, working with a group. It can be when you first start, that you think, oh God, laying out more money, but it's so important to make sure that you not only do that personal reflection, but you get someone who's really experienced who can help you reflect on your work and expand your knowledge. It's such a way to grow. We run a membership group exactly for that. It's really low cost, so you can get loads of really low cost supervision. If you've got some buddies who you've trained with, see if you can find somebody and work with them with a mentor or supervisors, or come and join us. Okay, so the 10 mindset traits that the best hypnotherapists have. You don't have to know everything. Be self-aware. Have the mindset of a novice, always be learning. Make sure your basic needs are met outside of the session. Be yourself. Number 6, expect the best. Number 7, have your client's interests, best interests at the heart of everything that you do. And don't muddy the waters. Have the confidence to go back to basics. Have the confidence in your skills. If something feels sticky, then have the confidence just to retrace your steps and go forward with the skills that you have. And then 10 is doing the self-reflection and getting supervision. I really hope that helps you.